Hey team, welcome back to your second Queen in 15 self-love lesson. So in this video, we're going to be talking more about the actual steps we can take to start building up self-love and improving that relationship with ourselves. Because last time we talked a lot about the importance of that relationship and how it helps us to create sustainable, healthy habits that are beneficial for our growth and for our success. So let's talk about exactly how we're going to get there, because like we said, this takes work, consistent and constant practice. It's a journey. It's not going to be an overnight fix. But the good thing is already just being aware of it is part of that practice. So we've already taken the first step. So like we said last time, self-love is kind of that balance between two things. The first being accepting ourselves fully and unconditionally exactly as we are right now in this moment, balancing that with also wanting the best for ourselves, believing we're worthy of that and committing to working towards that. So in terms of actually making those changes to get to those places, we need to kind of address them each in their own way. So for the first one, achieving acceptance, this has to kind of be an internal change because it all comes down to our beliefs and our thought patterns and the beliefs on what we have learned to be acceptable and then where we perceive ourselves in relation to that. So like we talked about last time, we've been taught certain things by society about what is acceptable and what is not, and not all of these beliefs are helpful for our growth and for that relationship. But the good news is if we've learnt them, we can then unlearn them. So disclaimer, I'm not a psychologist, guys, so we're not going to go too deep here into, changing thought patterns, but essentially by slowly rewiring those beliefs, we can start to change the behavior that comes as a consequence of those beliefs. So for example, if we have the belief that we are never good enough, we're likely to kind of have self-sabotaging behaviors. We're likely to have a lack of confidence and a lack of kind of conviction and drive. But by retraining that belief to something more useful, like my worth is inherent and I will always be good enough, our consequential behavior is likely to be much more positive and much more aligned with our goals and what we want to achieve, as we'll have much more confidence and more faith in ourselves to get there. So changing those beliefs takes time, as with everything, and it has to start with awareness that they're even there, because some of them are so deep rooted that we don't even necessarily know like where they've come from. So next time your mood is a bit low or you're feeling a bit rubbish about yourself, try and kind of go inwards a little bit, take some time and work out exactly what the thoughts are that are going on underneath the surface that are kind of causing that feeling, and maybe identifying if there's something specific that's kind of triggered them. Like for me, it's always going on Instagram and seeing a certain few people who are like really successful, really glam. They always trigger my kind of negative self-talk. So finding those triggers and finding those beliefs and those thoughts can help us to then A, start to remove and avoid those triggers if we need to, and B, start to replace the beliefs behind them. Like the example I just gave, replacing them with kind of more positive beliefs that are actually going to aid us rather than hold us back. And relearning these takes active practice, repetition. So listening to, reading, reciting affirmations is a really good one, as long as the affirmations are very specific and actually meaningful to you. Journaling our thoughts is a really good one to, especially for that identification process, because we're able to, see more clearly when it's out on paper, and then it's a lot easier to rationalize it as well when it's out there. Or of course, talking to someone, a trained therapist, if that's necessary, and if you have the means, obviously is always an option to go to. So that's kind of the acceptance side. Then the second part of it is obviously committing to and working towards what's best for us. And that's a more physical practice that involves active self-care. So self-care isn't just the kind of fluffy bubble bath and candles situation that we think of. It's essentially anything that we can do for ourselves as an act of love and self-love. So you might have heard of Gary Chapman and his 5 love languages, which are words of affirmation, acts of service, like doing things for the person, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. So they're the 5 love languages. And so all of our kind of self-care and self-love acts can fit into those 5. But the key is to think about which of those you respond to best in your relationships with other people. And then you can start to identify which ones you can give to yourself to help build up that self-care routine and start moving towards that life that you know you deserve. So we're going to be talking a little bit about those love languages in one of the upcoming tasks. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll go through a little bit more about what they are. But for now, if you want to, give it a Google because there's loads of examples on there. So like I said, these all take effort and active practice, and the irony is they feed into one another, because the more you start to accept yourself, have those more kind of positive thoughts around yourself, the more likely you are, like I said, to engage in those behaviors that in turn help to nourish you. So it is a bit of a cycle, and all that means is that we need to just kind of make that commitment to start somewhere and let it just build, and trust that it will if we keep committing to it. So that's it, guys. That's number 2. Hopefully that's given you some food for thought for like where you can start on this journey, or the next step that you might take. Do let me know how you're getting on with it. If these are things that you've started to kind of implement into your life, I would love to know and have a little chat. I will see you next time, and we're going to be addressing some of the specific myths within the health and fitness space that kind of get in our way, block us, and cause those niggly, negative, limiting beliefs that we want to try and relearn. So I'll see you then.